Good afternoon. This is Mark Skidmore. I'm the director of the North Central Regional Center for Rural Development. Welcome to today's webinar. Today we have Melissa Cragin and Alice Delage from the University of Illinois at Urbana Champaign. The title of the talk is The Midwest Big Data Hub, Advancing the Data Ecosystem, Projects and Partnerships. So I'm really looking forward to introducing them in just a moment. Before we get started, you can see we have a few other webinars upcoming, both actually two, and they're coming up on the opioid crisis. So please keep that in mind and put it on your calendar. Okay, so let's move this out of the way and we'll get started. The Midwest Data Hub is one of 4 regional big data innovation hubs launched in 2015 with support from the U.S. National Science Foundation. This one is based at the University of Illinois at Urbana Champaign, and the hub is a growing network of academic, industry, and non-governmental partners. Big data innovation hubs are intended to strengthen the data ecosystems and develop effective networks of experts, organizations, projects, and resources to address scientific and social issues of regional, national, and international interest. And so big data is an emerging issue. It's one of the challenges I think we have in society today of how do we use and manage and organize all of the data that we have potentially at our disposal. So with that, I'd like to introduce Melissa and Alice and turn it over to them. I want to remind participants that if you have a question, you can type it into the chat, and Melissa and Alice can then respond to it either in the midst of their presentation or at the end. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Melissa and Alice, and thank you both again for sharing what's happening with your program here.
Thank you, Mark, and good afternoon, everyone. So, okay, I will get started, and thanks for that nice introduction. And I'll just go ahead and move forward with the slides. And Mark gave a little bit of the overview that I'll start with here. And that is that as part of the federal big data initiative that was launched in 2012 in the previous federal administration, NSF realized that in addition to big data research, and development, that there was a real need for organizations that would help facilitate collaborations and connectivity amongst public and private institutions, both academic, industry, government, and non-governmental organizations. And of course, we're based here. You can see here is how the 4 hubs are split out. So the hubs are essentially drawn to U.S. Census numbers. So while the regions are different in size, we have about the same populations across these regions. And in the Midwest Hub, I'm going to just, there we go. Let's see if they're, okay. So in the Midwest Hub, our executive director's office is based here in Champaign, but we have 4 other core institutions that are part of the grant, and that is at University of Michigan, Indiana University, Iowa State University, and the University of North Dakota. Now, again, those institutions are part of our primary grant, and we've developed a network now that ranges across the entire region and even some collaborations and partnerships across the country. Most prominently, of course, are our relationships with the other 4 hubs. And so we are charged with building partnerships and also developing the data ecosystem, both regionally and nationally, and helping to build capacity, both in the workforce community, so data science, training, education at the college level, but then also being able to work with public organizations, the nonprofit and public sector, on helping develop capacity, both for civic organizations and then also the general citizenry. So here's sort of our overall mission, if you will. And the large mission and the vision of the hubs is, in fact, to help build out the data ecosystem and really to address those societal and scientific challenges, but also, of course, to build economic development and innovation in the big data ecosystem, to be able to not only take advantage of big data to help drive innovation and technology and the use of those applications, to apply those things in the U.S., but then also to help raise all boats, if you will, to make sure that as we're building out the data ecosystem and applications in the academic and industry or business sectors, that we begin to figure out how we also build participation to be able to leverage data and data systems for decision making out across the general public and other institutions. And so, of course, with Illinois being the land-grant institution, UIUC, the land-grant institution in Illinois, we also participate in some partnerships. We've begun some developed some beginning interactions, and we've initiated some conversations with the extensions in Illinois. And Alice will we can talk more about that in a few slides, and Alice will talk about a couple of other projects related to that. So what do we do in the Midwest Big Data Hub specifically? What are we doing to, again, build out that network of partners and projects? And how do we interact around data to help drive new activities in the Midwest? Well, so one of the first things we do is we help identify opportunities to matchmake and build new collaborations, whether it's with Illinois or other institutions. So again, the big data hubs, the big data innovation hubs, are regionally facing organizations, and we are building a network across the entire region. So we look for opportunities to link together both academic institutions, other research organizations, and the private sector and the public sectors to build collaborations around funded projects, sometimes unfunded projects, but we are predominantly interested in facilitating access to new funding opportunities, both through the federal government and through foundations. So we catalyze those new projects. Especially if a faculty member calls us up and says, we're very interested in working on a project in this area, and so we might need partners with these sorts of expertise. We can help at least point to other organizations that would be able to have or provide links to those expertise or skills, and hopefully faculty and others that are able to potentially join the project or advise on that. We also spend a lot of time doing outreach, helping to grow our network of experts, and bring new collaborative projects into the hub. I'll talk a little bit about that when we get to our partnership slide. And we do that quite actively. Right now, the hub is, the Midwest Big Data Hub is an unfunded collaborator on 24 different funded projects across the Midwest. And beyond now, we actually are partners on an international project as well around the internet. We also, in addition to the matchmaking, we actually participate directly, sometimes providing guidance and advice or sitting on advisory groups around these collaborations to address the grand challenges. An example of one of the things that we do, we have 2 working groups right now in the Midwest Big Data Hub. One of those working groups is on advanced materials in manufacturing, and the other working group that's active right now is in big data and cyber infrastructure research. It would not surprise me if we begin to form a new working group around a formal working group around smart and resilient communities. And you'll see as when Alice talks about that area that there are potential opportunities to do that as well and work with our current group in that area. And the other is that we spend a lot of time engaged in activities around data science education and training. We do that in a number of ways, both formally and informally, and I'll talk a little bit more about that on a different slide. And then we also work with the other big data hubs, both to coordinate and make sure that we are able to leverage our resources across the 4 hubs, and that we're also working in coordination around whether it's cyber infrastructure or data science training and education opportunities. Okay. So I wanted to just show a sample here of the places that we've actually either managed or supported actual events and activities across the Midwest. A couple of these spots that you can see are actually, some are actually workshops and 2 or 3 day events. Some are outreach visits to build partnerships, and others are where there have been other Midwest Big Data Hub related events that maybe we just sponsored but didn't attend. So you can see that we've done a fairly good job so far of getting out across the Midwest. We know that we have lots of other places to visit, and so we'll just keep working on that over the coming few years. But we engage stakeholders, as we pointed out. We develop that community across campuses. We're really interested in bringing both researchers, faculty, students, and others associated with, certainly with extension and the land-grant universities, into opportunities and making opportunities known for them across the region. I talked a little bit about the other items already, so I'll just keep moving forward here. And please, if people have questions, do feel free to ask questions in the middle. I'm happy to take questions along the way or at the end, either way. And I know this is a different sort of presentation. This is the first time maybe that some of you have heard of the hub, and so I'm happy to address any questions you might have. So we have some research or domain area or priority area areas of interest. So some of these will probably not be a surprise given our region and the role of the extensions here. But these are the 5 sort of research or priority areas of real interest to the Midwest Big Data Hub, because clearly these are areas of interest because of both economic development, environmental reasons, and our R&D efforts, research and development efforts in the Midwest. So digital agriculture, which is led, so the community development is led out of Iowa State University, but we also have a funded project in digital agriculture that works to build up research partnerships across the Midwest, and that's led out of North Dakota, University of North Dakota. We have a water quality area. So the original area was food, energy, and water, and we still have some food projects, but those are now under the Smart Resilient Communities area. And we're going to be focusing going forward on water quality in particular. And that we will focus not only on groundwater quality, for example, but also the Great Rivers Project is affiliated. Well, we have an affiliation with the Great Rivers Project, and then of course also with our Great Lakes, and you'll see in another slide some of our partnerships in that space. Smart and Resilient Communities, which I'm going to leave for Alice. She'll be telling you more about that area. Health and biomedicine, so big data and health and biomed, and we are predominantly focused right now on neuroscience and some very specific projects in the big data for neuroscience area. We do have some public health projects that we are affiliated with or that affiliate with the Midwest Big Data Hub. And again, those happen to fall under our Smart and Resilient Community space. But in the big data and biomed, it's neuroscience for now, and we anticipate some other projects to come in the future as well around that area. And then I mentioned already the advanced materials and manufacturing space. And there's a lot of interest there. Something that might be of interest for if anybody's doing economic development through the extension. Of course, now that manufacturing, there are lots of new opportunities for small business manufacturing. When we can get, rural broadband, when we can get broadband access, there's new opportunities for 3D printing businesses, for example, that could be part of the product development system in manufacturing. And so that's an area of interest as well, and certainly can be part of our Materials and Manufacturing Working Group, if that's of interest. I want to just point out very quickly that we also have cross-cutting areas. So across all of our domain areas here, across, let's see if I can pick this up again. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the pointer reactivated here, so bear with me. Okay, there we go. So, well, okay, looks like I'm not going to spend any time with that. But it looks like I'm having a little bit of trouble moving the pointer here. Oh, there we go. Thank you. So whoever, thanks, Steve, or Mark, maybe somebody help me with that. Okay, thank you. So these cross-cutting areas are data science education and training, and they're cross-cutting because they sit across they sit across all of these areas and others. We help with projects for data infrastructure. So sometimes we find that people don't have access to tools, or we actually need to develop new tools to be able to do analytics with the data. So tools in cyber infrastructure, analytics tools, cyber infrastructure for being able to store and move data around. Data science applications or methods, or just computing methods, basic data handling. So data gathering, collection, data markup, if you will, and services for supporting data management. And then data policy. So one of the very specific things that is important across all of our areas is access to data, being able to build up, broaden participation of those that have, broaden participation across all sectors for being able to access and use data for both for research but also for decision making in all walks of life, and making sure that there's equitable both access but also use and applications of data, and also equitable access in terms of what data get built into data systems for decision making. Okay, so I mentioned we have a variety of partnerships, and these are both academic. So you saw the sort of network across the region. We actually have partnerships at this point and in academic institutions in our network that we consider members or partners. We have upwards of 100 academic institutions now. It might be more than that, but I think that's probably close. So this is just to give an example of the types of organizations that we partner with. And okay, so I'll just start at the top. There we go. The Engagement and Performance Operations Center. That's an organization that trains faculty and others, so also IT professionals, information technology professionals, and network engineers at academic institutions to be able to support moving data from one academic institution to another, particularly around partnerships where there are research or development projects, and there needs to be shared data across those institutions. That center, it's usually around science projects at this point, but certainly on academic institutions, there are information technology and network engineers that, because extensions are part of the land-grant institution and usually part of either the ag school or some other school, that it's possible that those resources would be able to be used in that case as well, those training services. The Council on the Great Lakes region is a trade organization that deals with bilateral trade between Canada and the U.S., but then also has lots of interesting domain areas. So those priority areas that are of interest both to the Council on the Great Lakes region and also the Midwest Big Data Hub are materials and manufacturing, agriculture for sure, and the big data and data science space, and of course water quality. So we have a collaboration with them, a partnership around building at the policy level and potentially some projects specifically related to moving data back and forth and building the workforce that will support the bilateral trade and the movement of data and goods across the border. The carpentries, just a quick show of hands, if you don't mind. Have you heard of data carpentry or software carpentry? Those folks on the call today? Not sure. Okay, no hands up. So the Carpentries, it's a nonprofit organization that started with software carpentry to provide training for faculty that need to start to learn to do basic programming skills, not only to manage their data, but to be able to do some analysis or move those data around. And the carpentries now also include data carpentry, and believe it or not, there's now a library carpentry as well to help train librarians in both software development and data management using computing services. The data carpentry, interestingly enough, so the Midwest Big Data Hub has a membership in data carpentry, and we will be providing trainings on basic data management skills through our data carpentry partnership. And in fact, data carpentry is also interested in working with the hubs on now designing training specifically for the public sector, and we include the extensions out, as well in that space. So we'll be looking for opportunities to make data carpentry training available for basic development of skills around using existing data, whether that's through the extension or, for example, using both municipal level and county level data for decision making. And so I don't have much more to add about that today, but I just want to make you aware that in the future we'll have some more of those kinds of trainings available. I won't spend any time on this, but the National Data Service is a distributed group of cyber infrastructure and software development professionals that work with faculty to design pilot tests or test beds for faculty to make their data available, and also bring new tools to be able to do analysis of data that they might have. Earth Science Information, the ESIP, Earth Science Information Partners, is a long-standing organization of earth science and federal agencies and some nonprofits working with earth science data to do research and drive both academic research, but then also policy development around earth sciences in the U.S. and beyond. And then we have a long-standing partnership, all the hubs do, with Microsoft to make cloud services and computing in the cloud available, analytics in the cloud available to our faculty. So I just wanted to mention that there, and I will move forward. I won't spend much time here, except just to point out a couple. We have, while we have partnerships with 24 different projects now, NSF has funded specifically hub-related projects called Spoke Awards, and we have one in digital agriculture, and we have now a couple of new ones that might be of interest to some of you. Alice will talk more about the one on the bottom, which is based at Ohio State University now in the opioid space. But we also have one in water quality, around water quality for an informatics framework for big river data in the Mississippi River Basin. So I just want to mention those, that we have these funded projects, and these projects are predominantly around building up access and use of data and building partnerships and building the community around data access and use to solve these problems. And this is my final slide. I will only spend a minute here because I've actually gone a bit over time. So I'll just spend a moment here. But I want to just mention that the hub has either led or supported the projects on this page. So, and we have products, I wanted to point this out because we have products in this space now. So we actually developed and ran, and Alice was part of this as well, machine learning farm to table. We brought in academic researchers, industry, and others and federal agencies to think about how do we build partnerships and what are the gaps in being able to bring new computational approaches to data across the agriculture product development and then, farm to market pipelines. So we did that. This is our this one at the top is our Digital Ag Spoke Award here. And at the bottom, we supported a food and data, big data workshop at the University of Illinois. And this is a white paper that came out of the Food, Energy, Water workshop that we supported at a conference. So I'll just leave it there. I just wanted to mention those are the kinds of things that we do in that space. We also do a lot of very sort of local level project development or workshop development. And I will leave Alice to talk about some of those things now. So thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Can you all hear me well? Is this okay?
Yes.
So I'll be diving more into our smart and resilient community priority area. And this area has been with the hub since the beginning, but I joined myself a little over a year and a half ago to help develop it further from the central office. So we started with an initial planning meeting in October 2017, collocated with our annual all hands meeting in Omaha, Nebraska that year. And the purpose of that meeting was really to build a community around Smart Communities Initiative and identify existing projects, questions and needs, and from around the hub. And there we understood smart communities in a broad sense, as we had representatives, researchers with background in health, energy, environmental science, GIS, etc. And so over the following year in 2018, our focus turned more towards rural communities and how data research and data-enabled technologies can impact and benefit those communities. And this interest spanned from a shared recognition that some issues facing rural areas are complex and multidisciplinary in nature, and that those technologies may sometimes provide new solutions to improve access to remote areas and access to services, particularly in education and healthcare, be a vector for economic development. And there was also an interest in how data-intensive research can also provide new insights on health disparities and community resilience, community management and decision-making, etc. So we wanted to discuss those thematics that have a big impact in our Midwestern states, and we developed a meeting in July 2018 at UND, University of North Dakota in Grand Forks. And here on the slide you can see our promotion of the event. So we had a particular focus in that event on rural health and access to broadband services. And that meeting was well attended. We had over 125 attendees, and we invited state extension representatives, and we had attendance from NDSU, North Dakota State University Extension, Purdue University Extension, and Michigan State University Extension. And so this helped further develop our relationship with experts in the area, share knowledge and capture the needs of researchers and communities. And also I think what came out of this meeting was an emphasis on the many assets associated with rural communities, including creativity in how they serve their local population and provide access to services in low density areas, the strong community links that researchers can build upon when working with those communities. So here this is a little focus on a competition that was launched by US Ignite to their Smart Gigabit Communities Network to organize what they called reverse pitch challenges for hackers to develop gigabit apps to help solve community problems. So the Champaign-Urbana Smart Gigabit Community was awarded a $20,000 award to organize those challenges. And we partnered with the city of Champaign, who provided a data set, and Hack Illinois, which is a large annual hackathon on the UIUC campus with more than 1,200 attendees, And so that took place in February 2018. And you can see the winning team of or challenges on the top right of the slide, the Gigabit Girls. And the Gigabit Girls and the City of Champaign have an ongoing partnership that evolved towards helping develop a wireless underground sensor network. So this is a type of an example of a success story in which the hub has been more particularly involved and that has informed our programmatic activities moving forward. So those are more projects and partner projects from around the Smart and Resilient Community priority area. And so other examples of projects we collaborate on, Melissa mentioned the Spoke project around community-driven data engineering for opioid and substance abuse with our colleagues from OSU. We have a RCN Research Coordination Network Award around developing informal infrastructure for building smart regional food sheds. So that's out of Ohio State University and UC Davis. And so the goal there is creating an informatics framework for generating smart and connected food sheds out of several counties in California and Ohio. But one example that I wanted to bring to your attention here, and I apologize for the poster here, you are not supposed to be reading that, but this is a project together with the University of Michigan and the ICPSR there to train students and community stakeholders in collecting and cleaning and analyzing data generated and used by government organizations to enable database decision making. So we, the hub, works in providing community partners for this project, and the community partners can then guide the development of instructional materials and suggest more data sources. And one example of this is our contacts at Illinois Extension, who are working with some rural communities on using data to improve access to services and economic development. So here, to finish up, more opportunities to engage and collaborate with the hub. The hub is really open to all parties interested in data science around our priority and cross-cutting areas. So if you're interested in this, you are very welcome to sign up for our mailing list. I've added the link to our website here, and Rosa, maybe this would be a good time to bring up the link for everyone to be able to just have a look at our website if you wish. And with our newsletter, you can learn more about our events. And if you're interested, anybody can sign up to our training events, the ones Melissa mentioned already, data carpentry workshops or Microsoft Azure trainings. And one way you can help us is to generate information and announcement to our network, whether it is some events or funding opportunities or data challenges. One example here is the Area Hack competition that is happening until June 20, and this is with our partners at the Cleveland Water Alliance and many other organizations. Other things we're interested to hear about are best practices and case studies around data and data use for communities and reports and resources that you could that are relevant to our network, and you can help us point to. And if you're welcome also to participate in our MBDH community and partner activities, join our meetings and webinars. We have a blog on our website, and you're welcome to join our pilot project. So there are many, many ways to get involved with us at different levels. And with this, I hope you have learned more about the hub. I hope you have identified how it can be useful to your activities in some ways. And here are more ways to contact us, or info@midwestbigdatahub.org email address. and our social media details. And with this, I will thank you and we'll take any questions.
So Alice, if it's okay, I'm going to go back one slide, and yes, we'll take any questions. I just want to add, just as an example in terms of best practices, lessons learned, case studies, and success stories. One of the areas that we are interested in is the development of rural broadband and other access to high-speed internet for applications in rural or communities that have low broadband connectivity right now. And so just as an example, because that's an area both that affects decision making, obviously, and also decision systems, community development, and economic development. And so that's an area where we are particularly interested in being able to facilitate conversations across the Midwest region on different approaches to access to high-speed broadband. So I'll just leave that there as an example.
Yes, thank you, Melissa. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Alice and Melissa. We do have a few minutes for questions from the audience. I have a question to start us off. I'm just thinking about big data, and it's a pretty broad term in terms of what might be considered big data. I'm wondering if you could give an example on the community resilience. One of your priorities is smart, connected, and resilient communities. Can you give an example of how big data are being used in a community in that realm?
Sure. And so let me start by saying when we use big data, the term, it may not really apply to size, or size may not be the characteristic that is really the issue. We use the term big data to mean any space where there are challenges around, whether it's the gathering or collection, the handling and management, being able to do analysis around the data, then being able to draw insights from that analysis and apply those insights to decision making or scientific discovery. Be able to draw insights or claims out of the data. So size, scale, speed, while those characteristics may apply, they may not. And in the smart resilient community space, I can give you a couple different examples. One of our partner projects, in fact, I'll give you, well, let's just start. I'll start with one from Ohio State. One of those partner projects said, okay, we need to better understand how our pedestrians and bike riders, so how citizens are experiencing what's the difference in air pollution from different parts of the city. And so they had a small project where they outfitted people, bikers, I think, predominantly, with sensors to be able to take air quality readings around different parts of the city in Columbus. So that's a space where they're trying to understand the effect of air quality on people in different smaller areas of the city. And that's being able to collect that is it's a new problem. Putting sensors on people is a new problem. And then being able to look at data from across different areas and look at change in air quality from, over time, right? So that's an example.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Steve has a question.
I'm reading that, yep. Yeah, okay, that's a great question. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, that's a great question. So the data carpentry workshops will be one of those opportunities for getting individual training or even organizational training around the use of existing data. But let me go back to, so let me just refresh in terms of the slide that had the poster on it that Alice was talking about, our collaborative projects. and the project that's being run out of ICPSR and the University of Michigan. Here, oh, there we go. This project is specifically to build up the workforce, to build up skills in being able to use public sector data. So ICPSR, this group at ICPSR at University of Michigan, is developing a curriculum to be able to build capacity across the region. So they'll have a curriculum, they'll provide some training so that people can use existing data in community planning and decision and research. So one of the ways that you can get involved in that is, if you're interested, we can connect you directly to that project, because in the first year to 2 years, they're actually looking for people that can help them give feedback on the curriculum. I can also point you to a couple other projects where there is access to training around community data, and I believe that the National Council on Counties also provides. They have a very large data service, and I think they also have some training in that space as well.
And if I can jump in, Melissa, I'll just add one thing that maybe a misunderstanding that we get a lot is that we, as the MBDH, do not host any data sets ourselves. So we rely on our partners to point to potential data sets and resources, etc. But just wanted to clarify this because this is a question we get a lot.
And Steve, I'd be curious where you're taking the MOOC courses. Just let's see. Very good. This is great. Oh, great. Okay. And so let's see. How can one make this data accessible to other research? Yeah. So that's an area we actually do work on in a couple different ways, and that is that. That is, we do work with faculty on different opportunities, options, pipelines for making their data available for research in general. And so that's a sort of an ongoing activity we do in various ways, whether it's through workshops or consultation, is helping facilitate increased access to data, both public data and then also research data that may or may not be open. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other questions popping on the screen here, so maybe now is a good time to close up the webinar for the day. Alice and Melissa, thank you again for sharing information about the Midwest Big Data Hub and all the work that you're doing. It's I think an important service and a resource for us all. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Mark and Rosa. Thanks for hosting us. Thanks for the opportunity. And thank you, everybody, for participating today. Really appreciate it. Thanks much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you again.
Okay. Bye.
Everyone have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.